Thank you so much for staying with us here on the Sports Max Zone. Head coach of Trinidad and Tobago Soca Warriors, Angus Eve, has issued a rallying cry to his troops ahead of Friday's home fixture in the CONCACAF Nations League against Guatemala. The Soca Warriors currently lead Group A of League A with a maximum 6 points from their 2 matches. Despite having to make 3 changes from their previous squad due to injury, Eve remains cautiously optimistic that his team can secure all 3 points.
There were 3 changes from the last group that we had. Shannon Gomez has an injury, so Alvin Jones will come in and replace him. Tyrone Charles will replace Sam from Defence Force, and Real Gill will come in to replace Malcolm Shaw, who also has an injury. No other players has any injury for us now, so it's just for us to go and we know what Guatemala brings to the table. We've been watching the tapes on them, and we're just going to prepare for that.
Former T&T international Brent Sancho now joins us to provide some additional insight into what's been fueling this renewed drive within the locker room of the Soca Warriors. Good afternoon, Brent. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing okay as well. So talk to me about the Soca Warriors. I wish I was in Trinidad to see this match. Of course, Angus Eve, he's rallying the entire Trinidad and Tobago, telling them, they need to come down and support the team.
Yeah, look, it's a competition where we started off quite well. Of course, unexpectedly, we've had 2 wins, 2 points away from going into the next phase of it. Of course, the possibility of qualifying for Copa America. So yeah, there should be some excitement there as it relates to fan support and coming and making sure that, of course, Trinidad has every opportunity to move on. As I said, it's unexpected, the 2 results. We had a very poor Gold Cup. We discussed that here on the zone. And they've had a turnaround in fortunes, of course, a huge shift in direction. A lot of the older players, quote unquote, or more seasoned players have been left out of the squad for a younger team. We've rode our luck on many occasions and both fixtures against El Salvador and Curacao, but nevertheless, we have 6 points.
Yeah, that's what matters. Do you think Trinidad and Tobago, because he just mentioned Alvin Jones comes in for replacing Shannon Gomez, and then Real Gill is in for Malcolm Shaw. Do you think with the setup of players that the T&T Soca Warriors has at its disposal, they can get those essential 3 points?
I think it's a good question. I think the big miss really, and it wasn't mentioned there, is Levi Garcia. He is certainly a top player and easily the best player that Trinidad have within their roster. Obviously, he missed the first 2 games against El Salvador and Curacao, but he's sorely needed for this one. Guatemala is coming in terrific form since the Gold Cup elimination by Jamaica, and you would expect them coming having a lot of belief. So yes, within the squad, and look, it's hard to predict, Mariah, because no one predict the 6 points because, as I said, at the end of the day, it's a very young and experienced team, and there was a lot of feeling that, of course, that the team was not good enough to get the results. As I said, yes, at times we rode our luck, we defended stoutly. Goalkeeper Denzel Smith has been outstanding for both games, but football is a sport that you could do that for only so long. So the question really is if they could continue doing that. Yes, I know there's been new inclusions, but it really comes down to the fact that some sort of performance, because as I said, there's only so many times you can play and of course get those sorts of results without outplaying a football team. You would hope that this game here in Trinidad against Guatemala, Trinidad and Tobago, of course, comes to the front and play on the front foot.
Yeah, Guatemala expected to be tougher, Brent, than both El Salvador and Curacao had been for T&T. Guatemala also beat El Salvador, but they were held to a 1-1 draw by Panama, who the Trinis haven't played yet. How do you think Angus Eve will set up for the Guatemalans, given the fact that he is missing key players? You mentioned Levi Garcia. He has missed, I think, the last 3 or 4 games for AK Athens in the Greece Super League because of the injury as well. But given the fact that Guatemala is expected to be tougher, What adjustments do you think Angus will make with his strategy going into this game?
One of the complaints, Lance, with a lot of the local football experts and fans is that we play very defensive under Angus Eve. He's gone on record, of course, as saying that that's his style and that's the way he wants to play, and it wins football games. And I think if I am to go on what we've seen from Coach Angus so far, I think he would continue along that vein of playing a quite cautious approach, pragmatic approach. He's utilized, as we see in the clips that are running now, the ability and strength of set plays. He's utilized the organization and being very difficult to break down. And as I said, the team has rode their luck on occasion. So I expect them, Lance, to be very similar in that approach against Guatemala. You're right, the last time these two teams met was in Philadelphia, I believe. Alvin Jones scoring the winner back then. It's a lot different Guatemalan team. They've added even three better players moving forward. So I think they themselves, Lance, would want to play on the front foot. And I think Trinidad would be very happy to play in transition.
Yeah. Culturally, though, Trinidad and Tobago is not known as a defensive team. T&T's philosophy of football has always been, good attacking flair and so on. So is it that Angus Eve is working with the tools he has, and given the fact that he's trying to build a unit, is conceding that his squad is at the moment may not be ready to play the usual kind of T&T game?
Yeah, and then there's that argument, and that's a fair side of the point as well. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We just have not produced the type of players that we used to produce, that flair, playing on the front foot, 1v1 ability. Of course, we've had tremendous strikers. We don't have that anymore, all respect to the ones that are currently here. And I'm just talking about measurement to what we had before and what we currently have. So yes, you have to obviously take that into consideration. Although many Trinbagonians don't want to accept that fact, but you have to, and that is the current situation. Of course, we discussed in detail about the team's lack of performance in the Gold Cup, and a lot of persons pointed to the fact that we didn't play offensive football. But again, the argument has been as well to counter that, the fact that we just don't produce it. We just don't produce players on that level. Yeah. And if there's any question about that, you just look at the type of leagues, the type of situations our players are currently playing in. Yeah. So that would give you an idea. And of course, to the fact, Lance, and I have to add this, we don't have the advantage of using the grandparent law to bring players in with, of course, UK percentage, American percentage, European percentage to represent the country, to bolster the squad. Yeah. So yes, certainly the talent is a question. And it certainly is a reason why probably Angus chooses to play the way that he has played. Okay,
Brent, we're going to leave it there. All the best to the Caribbean teams as they get ready for Nations League matches later this week. Both T&T and Jamaica top of their group in League A, and St. Vincent of the Grenadines and St. Lucia also leading their groups in League B action. So let's see what the CFU teams have for us in Nations League football later on this week. Thanks, Brent. We'll talk again soon.
Take care, guys.
Yeah, back with more on The Zone after this.